What's up, guys? Today we have Nick Fuentes explaining exactly what Christian nationalism is.
Yes. I call myself America First because when we talk about who we are, what is our grouping, people tend to say we're conservative or right wing.
Right.
And I heard that my whole life. And I always identified as a conservative or libertarian or right wing or something. And these are terms that increasingly don't really have meaning. What actually does that mean? And people have to ask themselves, what is a conservative? Because now we're being told it's conservative to be a religious pluralist in favor of multiracialism, in favor. It's like, so what actually, people ask, are we even conserving or serious about conserving? And then people get to something like, well, being a conservative is being a liberal. It's being a right liberal, a classical liberal.
Right.
It's like, okay, so is conservatism even a tangible thing? And I look at myself in the context of what has happened in the past 30 years, which is globalization, and the globalization of the government with the supranational institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, these institutions that sit on top of our government, as well as the influence of foreign interests, multinational corporations, foreign intelligence agencies, the globalization of the population with open borders, immigrants pouring in. And this is even to your point about the intention of the Constitution. Was it intended for there to be millions of Indians, Chinese, and foreigners here? The answer is no. We're becoming globalized in terms of the demographics and the globalization of the economy through free trade, which is the interdependence of the United States with China, Mexico, Canada, these supply chains which make us dependent on other countries. And so it's in the context of globalization that I don't feel like a conservative, where they're preoccupied with limiting the size of government or vague appeals to family values, which become more vague and generic all the time. You could say that 20 years ago, to be conservative was to be Christian. Now in 2025, if you ask Turning Point USA, they say it's ethical monotheism. They have to say that to accommodate Jews, Muslims, Hindus.
That's terrible.
Right?
What are you conserving?
It's like arguably 100 years ago, maybe it was Presbyterian or Episcopalian,
Right.
like a very American denomination. Then it became like, well, we're one nation under God, Christian God. Now it's like ethical monotheism. I wonder what it'll be like in 100 years when we have like polytheism and pagans. It'll just be like all they'd be like deists or something.
Right. Yeah.
And so anyway, I look at conservatives as basically they're just not speaking the same language anymore. It doesn't seem to have a hard definition. It doesn't seem to have answers for the actual problems affecting real Americans. I said, so my real ideology, which is something I was searching for in 2016 when Trump was elected, when Trump ran in 16, he didn't say I'm the most conservative. He didn't say I'm the most right wing or the most Republican. He said, I'm America first.
Right.
He said, this is about globalism and nationalism, not liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans. It's about globalists, internationalists, and nationalists, people that want to put the American people first. And in his inaugural, that's where I got the name of my show. And just funny story, when I started my show with Right Side Broadcasting Network, they asked me what I wanted to call the show. And my first instinct was the Nicholas J. Fuentes Show. And they said, well, that's too long. No one knows who you are. No one knows your name. I was like, okay. They said, so you need something shorter, something different. And I really had no idea. A month later, Trump gave his inaugural. And in the inaugural, he said, a new vision will govern our land. It's going to be only America first.
Yeah.
And I heard that and I said, that's it. Like that. And it's because that really encapsulates who we are. When I say we and like our kind of people and they, the people that are against us, it's those that that have a sense of American identity, that it's about the American people and their history, their heritage, going all the way back even before the founding, before the settlement of the North American continent, where we come from, who we really are, and putting that first, that's the priority, explicitly identifying as Americans. And even, what was the point of the border wall? yes, it's to keep foreigners out. But I thought it was bigger than that. It was a tangible representation that said, this is America. That is the rest of the world. It gave us definition in a physical way. And I said, that's who I am. I'm America first. And that's something that Ben Shapiro could not claim.
Right.
The Democrats could not claim. You could even say the capitalist class. And by those, not to sound communist, but the wealthy, the owners,
Right.
the people that own the multinational corporations, and they live everywhere. You know, they have houses in Europe and Asia and America. They do business everywhere. They could not even call themselves America first. So whether
Because
it's
typically you think it's conservative and liberals, you know, and conservative over here, it's free trade, capitalism, you
Right.
know, like, and so, you know, or like a Ben Shapiro type, you know, like, oh, he's one of us. And those were kind of the dividing lines. And we're like, how come things just keep getting worse and worse? Like,
Right.
well, it's like, it's ping pong, but like both sides are really just two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And you're right. Trump really, in a lot of ways, said like, the reason we keep losing is because both teams are against you. Both teams. Like that's not the paradigm, liberal conservative. The paradigm is the world or us, you know? And I think you saw that early and hopped on it. And that's kind of been your legacy for the last 10 years.
Yes. Well, that's how I position myself, because I look at someone like a Charles Koch, let's say, and say he's not America first. If you're in favor of like ultimate deregulation, ultimate neoliberalism, free trade, the rest of it, you're not really on my team. Even if you're in favor of capitalism broadly or traditional values or something like that. And the same goes for Shapiro or Soros. It was really just about properly setting people on the right sides of the issue. And so for 10 years, I've been creating this space where I didn't, and what's interesting, which I don't talk about too much anymore, but this is very relevant in 2017, is it seemed that there was no faction or no space for somebody that I would call a true alternative to the right wing. You had the term alt-right, which is extremely popular in 2016. And that label went through a lot of changes. In 2016, to be alt-right meant that you weren't an establishment Republican. Because in 2015, right up until Trump announced, you really had Bush Republicanism, Bush conservatism, and that's just what there was. Individual responsibility, small government, free markets, like that's what it was to be right, even the wars to be right wing. Trump comes along and says, I'm a nationalist, not a globalist. And you just get this flood of new ideas. You get the French New Right, you get the perennialists like Evola, you get white nationalists, white identitarians, race realists, Holocaust revisionists, anti-Semites. You get all these other people that were right-wing, like they were anti-left, but they didn't fit that old mold of conservatism. And so people said, this is the alternative right. This is an alternative to what we're getting. And Trump wins the election. And after the election, alt-right became something very specific. And it really meant like anti-American, anti-Christian, because it was a lot of racialists, pure racialists that said it's not about America, it's about whites.
Right.
Or people that were against Christianity because they saw Christianity's left wing.
They
From
see
like
it
a
as
Nietzschean.
like a Jewish psyop to weaken the West through like a toxic compassion to eradicate white people.
Yes, and they see wokeness and leftism as proceeding from Christianity, Marxism proceeding from Christianity. And they identified with like the pagan New Right in Europe, or they identified with even some like atheistic.
And by the way, all of this is pathetic because Jesus Christ died on the cross and was put on the cross by the same people that the white nationalists criticize. And Marxism obviously is based on atheism. So why are you connecting Christianity to left wing? Doesn't make any sense. It's thanks to Christianity we even have conservatives. And if you really think Christianity is left wing, I mean, you don't really know history.
And so I kind of came to realize in 2017, as Trump drifted back towards the establishment, there is really no space for something that I saw this vision so clearly, like a George Washington national identity, pro-America, identifying America with its European identity, identifying America with its Christian heritage, being very far right, anti-foreign wars, right wing on the economy, but not in favor of total international trade, total free trade, and things like that. And I said that this is where I think actually most people are. I think that people want to say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
They want jobs. They don't want immigrants. They don't really care what the size of government is as long as it's efficacious and doing the things they want it to do well. They don't want to fight in wars. I said, like, this is where the country is. So that was my message basically from 2017.
And you blew up into the stratosphere. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree with Nick, and especially because, let's be honest, guys, conservatism has always been a thing, but at the same time, they never stopped mass migration. They never stopped LGBT shit propaganda. They never stopped communism. They never stopped anything. So we need something real, you know? We don't need like, okay, these people are just good enough. No, we need something real. We need real change, not pretending to change. I'm sorry to say, but conservatives in general are too soft. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree or disagree. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to. Christ is King, and God bless you.